Do you want children? Have you ever felt pressured to start a family? When did you first realise how you truly felt about it? On this episode of The News and You, my raw, unfiltered conversation with the Kiwi founder of the Others Club, an online community for people, especially women, who are child-free. If you've ever found yourself on the fence about having children or wondered why some women are choosing a different path, you'll want to hear from Danni Duncan, who's become the unofficial global voice as someone who is childless by choice. I'm Eleisha, journalist, storyteller, and I believe everyone you walk past has a story, and that story could change your life. So let's crack it open to discover the news and you. Danni Duncan is a woman in her 30s living in Christchurch, New Zealand. With over 140,000 followers on Instagram, she's built a vibrant community for people who are child-free, by choice or by circumstance. Through her honesty and humour, Danni shares what life looks like when you choose a different path and makes a compelling case for why not everyone needs to start a family to live a full and meaningful life. Before we dive in, I wanted to share why this episode is a little different. Being child-free can be a sensitive topic, one that's both divisive and misunderstood. But the reason the News and You exists is to remind us that there's more that unites us than divides us, and that there's real power in our stories. This is one of those conversations that deserves to be heard in full. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Danni Duncan. Tell me a little bit about, your own journey in choosing a child-free life. And was it a gradual realization that you had, or was it a clear decision from the get-go?
No, it definitely wasn't clear for me. I envy the women that have just always known that they don't want to have kids. When I turned 30, I definitely felt that pressure of time. And so I started thinking about when we might have kids, my husband and I. But the more I thought about what that would actually look like, the more I realized it wasn't something that I actually wanted to do. It was just something that society and the expectations on women had made me think I was going to do. And so when I realized that I actually had a choice, I guess that excited me to think that I didn't actually have to make a decision and choose something that, to me, didn't really align with the way I wanted my life to look. Then I was on the fence. So it was 2 years of me really unpacking what I actually wanted and thinking about all of the what ifs and the doubts and, making this decision is a pretty big thing to do. So 2 years of really wrestling with what did I actually want.
It's such a great question. What do you want? What do we want? It's something that we don't really ask ourselves enough as women. And so what was the initial reaction from friends and family when you said, this is what I want? I don't want to have children.
It was actually pretty good from my friends and family. At the time, we had nieces and a nephew in our family. So from my mum, I didn't feel pressure was there because she was a grandma already. I don't actually think it was unexpected either, because I have always been making choices that are a little bit different. And I just guess I'm the type of person that it probably didn't really come as a surprise. And I've never really talked about really wanting to be a mother and having kids. So it wasn't like I just all of a sudden changed what I was talking about. It was just more of a natural progression. I definitely had some friends who, it's not that I felt they didn't believe me, but I just think that maybe they thought I could change my mind again, and that I think they kind of misunderstood, because I was very vocal about it on social media right from the beginning. I used social media as a way to talk about it with other people that got it, and I think they thought maybe it was just a thing I was doing for content. I definitely felt a little bit of friction there, but as time goes on, they get it now.
Yeah, talk to me about that friction, because I imagine that you'd be getting it from everywhere, internally, but then externally as well. So what gave you the courage to be bold enough to share your decision online? And what was the overall reaction? Because your page is huge now. It's grown to over 144 1,000 followers, and it's growing as you've started the Others Club as well. So tell me about that.
I've never shied away from talking about controversial topics online. I am a divorcee. So I've talked about being divorced. I've talked about emotional abuse. Talking about difficult things I don't necessarily find hard. What I do find hard has been people having the wrong perception of who I am. And that definitely, as soon as I started talking about not wanting to have children, I know that people perceived me in a way that I didn't want to be perceived. And I found that quite difficult to accept. And nowadays, I don't care if strangers have a negative or wrong perception of me, but I do still find it hard when it's people that I know. I find that quite difficult. As soon as I started talking about it, it was both equal support, and mainly it was women, other women saying, thank you so much for talking about this. I've never seen anyone talk about the choice not to have kids online in this way before. And then there was also quite a lot of backlash, people thinking that the reason why I was talking about it was because I hated kids or because I didn't respect the choice to have kids, or I talked a lot about wanting to find friends that were in a similar boat to me, and people just didn't understand, why can't you just have the friends that you already have? Why do you need to have new friends? What's wrong with parents? Like, people just really misunderstood what the purpose was for me talking about it. And I think as time goes on, and there's so many more people talking about it now, I think people do understand the purpose more. But it was about 3, almost 4 years ago that I started sharing. And I definitely felt like I was one of the only ones. So it was quite lonely.
You mentioned that you're a divorcee. You've also grown up in a Christian community as well. And you're not afraid of shying away from the messy and the uncomfortable. So who was Danni Duncan in that context?
I guess I talk about the difficult things because for me, it's a way to connect with other people that get it. And getting divorced as a woman that was in church, and I'm no longer in church, and like everything to do with that, being a woman who was emotionally abused, I was very much stuck in my head, and I'm somebody that ruminates on thoughts a lot. I needed an outlet, and I did go to therapy, but then it's just having almost a companion or people alongside you that don't need to fix you or give you advice. It's just knowing that people get it. And with all of the things that I've shared online, that's what it's been about. It's been about finding community. And at first I've shared for myself, I've wanted to do it for me, but then the more I share, the more people go thank you so much for talking about this. And then it opens my world up to a lot of different other perspectives and people's experiences. And so the reason why I've kept going with the Childfree thing specifically is because I just know that the need is there. I've never really found it hard to be vulnerable online. I think sometimes I probably overshare.
I think the honesty is refreshing. We all know what social media is like, and people project these perfect and images of themselves and their lifestyles. But it's really nice to see women feel the freedom of just going, actually, I want to do something a little different. I wanted to talk about the societal pressures that are placed on women, and particularly when it comes to motherhood, and then motherhood being the cornerstone of womanhood. How do you challenge that narrative?
I guess a big part of it is noticing everything else that a woman does outside of raising children, because I think, society does put so much pressure on womanhood equals motherhood. And even for people that have chosen that, I know a lot of them feel really isolated and lonely and don't feel seen beyond being a mum. So I talk a lot about noticing people's other achievements, being able to share those and celebrate those. Women are not, the only purpose is not just to be a mother. My biggest message is that there is a choice. That's been what I've been talking about the entire time of sharing, is there is a choice, and each choice is beautiful and valid and fulfilling. It's not one is better than the other at all.
If you could change one assumption that people have around being child-free, what would it be?
It's a good question. The obvious one to me personally would be that I don't hate kids, because I do love them. I just wish that that was a given, that people just assumed that I did. As a whole, I guess the thing I find the most challenging is that I know I'm seen as a difficult woman. Like, I know that people see me as difficult. And sometimes that I find that hard, and I find it like, oh, I just wish it could be, I just wish people accepted me and like didn't challenge me, weren't trolling me, that choosing not to have kids was just like, oh, cool, like that's amazing. So I wish sometimes that people viewed and valued us as equals, and I know that isn't happening yet.
That's really worth unpacking, if you wouldn't mind. The trolling, what does that look like? What have people said to you? It seems like outwardly, and some of the comments that I've seen as well on social media, is you seem to be on the defense a lot, constantly having to defend yourself, and that must be so exhausting.
Yeah, and the thing is that I don't think women who are choosing not to have kids should have to defend themselves. The reason why I do it is because I know I'm representing a community, and so I explain, one, so other people understand, but also so that the women who are choosing not to have kids are more confident in themselves. So that's why I defend myself a lot. And yeah, it's frustrating. The worst things people say to me, like, you're going to die alone and be eaten by your cats. Like, honestly, that stuff, I'm just like, oh, whatever. Like, that's just a typical troll. It's the people that, you know, for instance, I talk a lot about women without kids finding friends with other women who don't have kids. And a lot of people really don't understand that, and almost treat us as if we're doing something wrong. And so I'm constantly having to explain the reasons why this is important. And that can be quite draining. Can we just be open-minded and inclusive? I think, especially online, people want everything to be about them and cater directly to them and fit in their neat little boxes. And that's just not possible. For me, it's learning when to push back and explain things, when to block people and just go, it's not worth it, or engage and try and have a productive conversation. Still figuring that out.
I wanted to dive into some of the misconceptions and stereotypes that you might encounter being a child-free woman. What has that been like? And what are those misconceptions?
I think the biggest one is that I don't like kids. I think people assume that if a woman doesn't want kids, she therefore doesn't like them. I love children. I always have. I worked in my old career. I worked with kids. I spend a lot of time with my nieces and nephew. So that one frustrates me because I think it's just like, I don't know. It just frustrates me. I never feel like I have to prove myself. I barely ever show me hanging out with my nieces and nephews, but I do spend a lot of time with them. The other one is probably, I don't know, you just get a lot of like, oh, you're so cold, you know, you're selfish, you're lonely. Even just like people assume without looking at the rest of my content that I'm a lesbian. There's just so many, I guess, tropes or stigmas that people have about women that don't want kids, and they just cannot see beyond, I guess, what media has shown them. It's interesting the things that people think about women that don't want kids. I think I've learnt to get to a place where it's not my job to make other people feel comfortable. So you can think what you want about me, like I know who I am, and the people that love me know who I am.
Hey you, I hope you're enjoying this episode. I just wanted to pop in and say if the news and you is something you love listening to, you can help me to keep it going by joining my Patreon community. Your support helps me tell more stories that matter, the kind that brings about compassion and a deeper understanding for others, culture, and the world around us. If you believe in the work we do, head to patreon.com/Eleisha Foon. That's ELEISHAFOON. The link's in the bio, and be sure to follow the news and you on Instagram for more behind the scenes moments, announcements, and updates. Thank you so much for your support. Let's get back into the conversation. You really embody this unapologetic badass energy. And I can tell that it's come from a place of being healed and going through some tough stuff and living life. Did you remarry? Are you single?
So I'm married to Alex. We've been married for 5 years. I think getting divorced and leaving church was the most difficult time of my life. And I really had to learn to be confident in myself and I did a lot of healing. That period of my life was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And so I think it's made choosing not to have kids and like everything that comes with that a lot easier because, as you said, I'm quite unapologetic. Like I'm quite confident in my choices and who I am.
And what has that journey been like for Alex as well, to see you grow more into who you're supposed to be, make those choices? And obviously it takes two to tango. So he's obviously on board too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his first choice would not be for this to be online. Like he's not really someone that uses social media a lot. And to be fair, I barely ever post about him or talk about him because I'm talking about my personal choice. I'm not talking about his choice. But yeah, we talk about it a lot and we support one another. And I've always felt like I can be honest with him about everything I'm thinking, even if at times, he may not have been as on exact the same page as me, but we've just always been really honest with one another. And I think that's why it works really well. He definitely supports me. I think the nature of being on social media and that being the main way that I do my job, it can be quite anxiety inducing. And my success in terms of my work at the moment depends on me succeeding on social media. And that is just, that can really mess with you. I will kind of have a little spiral if I post something and it performs really badly. But he's always there to kind of, I don't know, remind me that some of the things I worry about don't matter and it will all work out. Like it always works out.
For women that are looking for potential partners that will be as supportive and accepting as Alex, what would your advice be to them? Like, did you go in to your relationship really open about what you wanted? How did you approach it?
So don't do what we did because we barely talked about it. And I didn't actually realize that I didn't want kids till after we got married. But talking about wanting kids or having kids wasn't something we really talked about. And just thank goodness we ended up being on the same page. There are a lot of people in the Others Club who are single and dating. And it sounds really difficult out there because people on their Hinge profiles or whatever, they will see that a woman says she doesn't want kids and they will go like, oh yeah, okay. But they don't really acknowledge that she's saying that. And it's almost like they think she'll change her mind. So I think if you are dating someone and that is something that you won't change your mind on and like it is something that's really important to you, it's got to be something that you talk about from the get-go and make it really clear to them, like, this isn't changing, this is who I am. Yeah, I just think talking about it, being honest is the best way.
Do you think there's a stigma for women that choose to be child-free versus men?
I think, there definitely is. I think men don't experience the same kind of they don't experience the same amount of pressure that women do. There's a guy that I follow on TikTok who talks a lot about his choice to be child-free, and I see him getting very similar comments to what I get in terms of like trolling. But I think if he hadn't have said I'm child-free by choice, I don't think he would get the unsolicited opinions that women do. So I think women, if you reach your 30s and you don't have kids, then that's just like an immediate question when you're having kids. I don't think men get that. Or if they do, it's like definitely not as much.
Let's talk about what your life looks like in terms of freedom, identity, and purpose, because it seems like you live a really beautiful, full life.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day because I'd got home from my work day and I was like, oh, I've got to do all my chores. But then I was like, oh, well, at least after I finish my chores, I've got the rest of the day. Like I'm fully free. And I think, it is quite peaceful. I feel like I have a lot of time for myself, which is really nice, which I really value. I spend a lot of my time working out and doing fitness. That is really important to me. I guess my freedom is, I know a lot of people see that as being selfish, but I don't care. I value it so much. I guess I like knowing that I have the space and freedom and time to figure things out. There's no rush to go traveling. There's no rush to do anything. I've got the rest of my life to do it. So I think that's another thing as well. I just feel like I've got all the time in the world to give things a go.
It's so, so important. Another thing that we haven't really touched on yet is the cost of having children. And for the people that I've spoken to that have decided to be child-free, they've really, really thought about it. They've considered the costs. They've weighed up all of their options. If anything, they've been ultra responsible and then gone, actually, look, I'm struggling to take care of myself right now. Like, how am I going to take care of kids? It's interesting because sometimes the way that families come about isn't always intentional. Sometimes it wasn't planned, you know? So in saying that, what are some of the cost benefits?
I don't know like how much it would actually save us, but I think for me personally, one big thing is my job. So my income is very inconsistent, very up and down. And so if I was to choose to have kids, I would definitely need to be in a more stable job with a more stable income. And it was like even just buying our house, I think potentially we would have got a cheaper house with a cheaper mortgage because we wouldn't have been able to pay more. You know, like there's so many different aspects to the financial impact of having children. And I think we would have an incredibly tight budget. If one, I had to have that time off from not working, I would also have to come back to a more steady job. And I've been able to travel quite a bit. Alex and I have travel plans that we want to do. There's things that we're doing with our house, and just I think not having kids means we have those extra finances to put the money elsewhere, which I really prefer.
Before you were certain that you weren't going to have children, it was going to possibly be something that you would do. Take me back to a moment where you felt that pressure, and what was it like for you?
When I thought that I might have kids, it definitely felt like, okay, so we need to buy a house. I need to get the travel in. I need to figure out what I'm doing with my career, make sure that I'm making enough money. Like it felt like I needed to get stuff done. And so at that time, I actually got that test done. I forgot what it's called, but it tests like your egg count or like what they think it could be. And mine came back as actually really healthy. And so it was like, oh, I do have more time. But I'd already kind of started going down that train of thought of when I'm going to do it. And that's when I started thinking, oh, I don't think I want to. So I definitely felt like there was a time pressure. And it felt quite, I guess, like suffocating and almost unfair. I've got so much more I want to do. But the reality is that a lot of women financially cannot do it all. Finances is a huge thing, and they can't go traveling and have the kids and work on their hobby. And like I'm sure some people can, but for many people they can't. It's just impossible. So as soon as that pressure of like, oh, how am I going to fit it all in was gone, it was such a relief.
Yeah, I can only imagine. For women that do decide that they want to have kids, it seems like women, because they want a family so bad, they want children, can tend to settle and perhaps even rush into marriage because they want the family so bad, and it's almost elevated or idolized. Is there a truth to that?
Oh, there's definitely people I've talked to where that's happened. Like I have had people who are mums come into my DMs and say that they did that, and looking back, they wish they didn't. I wish there was more time. Like I wish women had more time, genuinely. And I do tell people, just give it time. You don't need to rush it. I think working out what you actually want and making sure you are making the decisions that are right for you is so important. I feel for those women that do really want a family and don't have someone that they yet want to do it with. I don't know how that would feel. I think it would be really hard.
For decades, the conversation about fertility has focused almost exclusively on women, on ticking time clocks, declining egg reserves, and the idea that after 35, time is no longer on your side. But new research is flipping the narrative. A 2025 study published in the journal Science Advances by researchers at Penn State University found that women actually maintain steady egg quality throughout their lives, while it's men's sperm quality that declines more sharply with age. In other words, the so-called biological clock isn't just a woman's issue, Perhaps it's been a shared one all along.
I think the thing I just keep coming back to is I just want people to know that there's a choice. I have spoken to so many women who didn't realise there was a choice. There are women who are going down that IVF route and they've done 5 rounds of IVF and it hasn't been working, and then they'll say to me like, and then I actually thought about, what am I doing this for? Do I actually want kids? And then they're like, maybe I actually don't want kids, and it's such a relief for them. And I just think there's so many women especially who never were prompted to think about being a mother or not. It's just like this thing that everyone does. I just want everyone to know that there's a choice, and I fully respect whatever choice people make.
What is your advice to young women, especially who are wrestling with the decision or are listening to this and going, I'm on the fence, what do I do?
Yeah. I think if you're on the fence, it's just time, and it's giving yourself space to talk to people about it. And yeah, it's not something, for a lot of people, it's not something that you just know. One thing that really helped me when I was like very much on the fence was I listened to Anne Davidman. She does a thing about helping women to decide to know if they want to have kids or not. And one of the exercises is pretending in your mind like you've made the decision to have children, and do that for like 3 days or a week and see how that feels. Try not to think about it and just go, okay, I'm making the decision to have kids. And then you do the reverse. And so you do it about not having kids. And so I did that. And when I thought about having kids, there was nothing about it that excited me, or I definitely did not feel peace. But then as soon as I was like, okay, I'm going to pretend to make the decision, I don't want to have kids, and I just immediately felt relief. And of course, there's still like little what ifs, and still, there always will be with any decision you make. But yeah, it was doing that exercise that I think really helped me to realize, oh, okay, I think I know what I want. It's just trying to get rid of all the head noise and the expectations around that.
What does fulfillment look like in a later season of life without children for you?
I hope it's much of the same. I hope I'm really close to my nieces and nephews still, which I'm sure I will be. I have a really beautiful big family, and I feel like a valued member of my family. My sister's about to have a baby, so that means she'll have a 10-year-old by then, and so I'll be Auntie Danny still. I think for Alex and I, there's a lot of travel that we want to do. I'm really focused on building the Others Club, and I've got a lot of dreams for that, and building that into a place that's really purpose built. Hopefully have an app one day. So I think much of what I'm doing now, but maybe just on a bigger scale because I'll have more money saved.
I love that. Just enhancing the life that you have.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. And yeah, you mentioned family, and family is so important. And I think a lot of people will be thinking, who's going to look after you when you're older? That's often a question that, people can get if they're choosing to be child-free. And legacy as well is a big one. Children are legacy.
Yeah. I think people forget that you can have family in other ways, like the chosen family, and child-free people that I've talked to, they do have connections and family. It's just not, the mum, dad, 2 kids version. So I think people just are quite narrow-minded when they look at what it means to be in family. And then in terms of legacy, I don't know why people have this big thing about like, but who's your legacy? Who's going to be your legacy? I guess my nieces and nephew, if we're talking about people, like I know I have a huge impact on their life. My work, I feel like I have a lot of impact on a lot of women and the work that I do. But for other people, it's, I don't know, maybe it's that you've had a good impact on the planet or animals or in your job, but I don't necessarily think you have to leave anything when you die. Like, just live your best life while you're here.
It's important to remember, not everyone who's child-free is childless by choice. According to the World Health Organization, roughly 1 in 6 people worldwide experience infertility. Others can explore IVF, which can be a time-consuming, costly, and an emotionally demanding process. For women who consider freezing their eggs, Each cycle typically costs between $15,000 and $20,000 US in most major American cities, with an additional $500 to $1,000 a year for egg storage. So if you're unable to have children, the Others Club, Danni's online community, has also become a space where people are learning to accept a different path.
I've just really learned that everyone has a different story, and I think people often see being a parent or being child-free is very black and white. Either you do have kids or you don't. But I've just heard so many different stories from people and why they do have kids or why they don't have kids and their journeys. And it's just taught me to be way more open-minded. And that's why the Others Club, I very much want it to be inclusive. I don't want there to be neat boxes around who people are because, people's stories, people are so generous with sharing their stories with me. I've just learned a lot about people's lives, and definitely the women that wanted to have kids that haven't been able to have them. There's so many people in my community, both in the Others Club and just through social media, who have had really hard journeys of trying to have kids and haven't been able to have them. And I love hearing from those women who are now embracing a life without kids. And I really admire them because I think that would be incredibly hard. So I think it's those stories that really stand out to me the most because, I just can't imagine how difficult that would be. So I really admire their strength and their openness to life and willingness to go, okay, well, that path hasn't worked out for me like I wanted it to. And so now I'm embracing a new one. It's not easy often for women. It's not just like, you decide not to have kids and life's easy breezy because you don't have kids. Like, there's still hard things. Keep being open, keep being honest, keep sharing, keep finding people that you can connect with, that understand you and get it. Like, I think finding friends who understand you and see you is really, really important. It's changed my life. I now have other friends who are women not having kids, and it's amazing. It's, as I said, it's changed my life in a really good way. So I think finding other people to connect with is really important.
Something that I've taken away from this conversation is just how nuanced. There are grey areas. It's so different for everyone, and it's not a black and white decision. There's so much in the lead up to it. Hopefully people listening to that can go, wow, okay, well, that's expanding my mind. That's helping me be more compassionate, hopefully, towards women and people that decide to be child-free or just child-free in general, because that's the way that life has presented itself. This was such a valuable conversation, and I hope people walk away understanding there are grey areas and that every woman has such a unique story. It's not about one decision being better than another, or if you choose to have kids one day, that's beautiful too. It's just having the choice. It's feminism, having the ability to choose. Thank you for listening to The News and You. Your support means the world. If you believe in the work we do at The News and You, sign up to our Patreon. It really is the best way to keep this going and be part of the Newsies community. I'd be so grateful if you can share the love by leaving a rating and review. It'll help spread these stories even further. What are your key takeaways? If this story impacted you, or even made you see the world a little differently, why not share it with your friends and family? Until next time, remember, your story matters, and there's a shared truth behind everything.